Welcome everybody to the Awkward Introverted Traveller Cooks London. You might be thinking, gosh Nicholas, you eat out a lot, and that's true. I've certainly had my fair share of meals out over this holiday. However, I love cooking, I love experimenting in the kitchen, so that's what we're going to do today, cook for some friends that I'm staying with. So it's a chance to experiment and cook here in London, so looking forward to that. The first ingredients you need is one suburb that you have no idea how to work your way around. Take two supermarkets that you have no idea how to work out where and what you're looking for and how to find the ingredients. Take one completely useless organic shop as well, and take one kitchen that you've never worked in before and have no idea how to work your way around, and then you have the makings of quite an interesting night ahead in terms of cooking. So in terms of the menu tonight, it's pork dumplings or gyoza, and then we've got some teriyaki chicken and ramen noodles, and some coconut rice as well, followed by an English trifle for dessert. So follow me as we cook our way around London. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is get our chicken thigh marinating in some ginger for the teriyaki chicken. It's important to use chicken thigh. It's a much more juicier, slightly fattier, tender meat that cooks up quite nice. In terms of making chicken teriyaki, by all means, if you don't care or have low standards, you could always use a bottle of chicken teriyaki sauce. However, I'm going to make mine from scratch, and it's a family recipe that's been handed down from generation to generation, so a nice traditional recipe there. So the first thing you need to do is grate some ginger. Okay, about a teaspoon, and marinate it over the chicken here. Okay, and you want to do that for at least half an hour. Okay, and then the next thing we'll do is we'll make the teriyaki sauce. Okay, now it's time to make the teriyaki sauce. So take 1 tablespoon of mirin, which is quite a nice sort of sweet taste that adds some flavour to Japanese style cooking. Very hard to find, took 2 supermarkets to find that. Take some sake from your local Chinese supermarket. One tablespoon of soy sauce. I'm using dark soy sauce. And 1 tablespoon of honey. So give that a good mix around and then set it aside for the cooking later on. Okay, so now it's time to move on to our dumplings or gyoza. We're going to make pork ones today. Don't have the recipe with me here in London, so I'm going to have to use the old grey matter to try and remember the recipe. However, the beauty is that with dumplings, I think it's a loose approximation anyway, so if you're getting around the 99% sure, I think that's a go for me. So hopefully it'll work out, and I'm sure it will. So as I say, it's going to be pork dumplings, so of course you need some pork. At $2.99 for 500 grams, just over. That's quite cheap, it feels quite cheap. So one thing I notice is that the meat, in particular pork and chicken, is incredibly cheap over here, so I do wonder what kind of life the pig or the chicken had. I suspect not the best life if you're able to sell a chicken, you know, for £1, £2. So things are very cheap over here in terms of meat, and also fruit and veg is pretty cheap. However, it's summertime, so that's quite good, so lots of things in stock. So we've got our pork, our spring onions, our Chinese cabbage, our shiitake mushrooms, our dumpling wrappers. You will need some soy sauce, and salt as well. First thing you need to do if you've got dry mushrooms is to soak them in some hot water just to let them rehydrate a little bit, so that makes it easier to chop them up. And while you're waiting for that, you can move on to chopping up the cabbage. The reason you need to do that is so that it can be salted and drain out some of the moisture, so it will wilt as well. Okay, so I'll get on to that now. Okay, now with our dumplings, it's time to put everything together. So our cabbage, Chinese cabbage there, has started to wilt with the salt. We've got our spring onions, which have been chopped very, very finely, and also the shiitake mushrooms. The finer you can get that, the better as well. So you want to add those to the bowl there. Got our mince going in there. Also add a little bit of sugar. Get some soy sauce. Add about a teaspoon splash of that. Whoops. And then now's the time to get a bit handsy and start mixing with your hands. So I'll get back to you in a minute with a little tip as well. Oh, and add some ginger as well. Okay, so my handy dandy dumpling tip is to pick up the dumpling mixture all in one big ball and then smash it into the bottom of the bowl that you're using to mix it. That will help tenderize the meat and mix it in more thoroughly. You want to hear that splat. Okay. Okay, so our mixture's all ready to go. The dumpling wrappers have defrosted. Now comes the fun part. You get to spend the whole afternoon putting together your dumplings. I like to listen to Enya while I put my dumplings together. So to put your dumplings together, take one dumpling wrapper, about a teaspoon of the mixture in the center, shape it nicely, wet one side with some water, fold over, join together. Now you can either do 6 little pleats like so. Or you can do 3. However, if you just do 3, I think that looks quite lazy, and it's not a very good sign of a gyoza maker if you only do 3. So the more pleats the better. Also the pleats pick up the taste as well of the soy sauce, the dipping sauce that you use as well. So that's why it's good to have more pleats as well, because there's more spaces for the sauce to run into. Okay, so I'll see you in about 2 hours. Bye. I'm back, and this time with handy dandy tip number 2 for gyoza making. Now you might think, Nicholas, why so precious about the pleats? Well, you might think, why not just do it like this? Yeah, gosh, that would save a lot of time. However, the danger is that they'll split open in the water, and that would be gyoza-tastic disaster, and you would be in the embarrassment of all your friends. Okay, so here we are, we've done our dumplings. There's just 18 because there's only 3 of us tonight for tea, so that should be more than enough given the other things we've got on the menu. So it's time to move on to the next thing. Okay, so the next thing we're going to make is a simple homemade Japanese style ramen soup, so that'll be something nice and hearty to look forward to. So the ingredients you need mushrooms, spring onions, eggs, chili for garnishing, butter, ramen noodles, garlic, peanut oil, salt, soy sauce, our old friend mirin, and chicken. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is add our chicken to a pan with some butter in it. Get that all nice and seared, and then we'll add it to the oven for the final cook-off. Okay, so our chicken is looking nice and seared, so we can get that in the oven now. So that should take around 25 minutes in the oven. Just to finish up the cooking. Okay, so now that we've got the chicken in the oven, we can make a start on the ramen broth. So the first thing we need to do, I've got some oil here, a peanut oil, so nice and neutral, that's heated up there. And to that we want to add some ginger and garlic. So there's around a tablespoon each there. So that should take a couple of minutes just to soften and brown up. Okay, so carrying on the cooking of the broth, we want to add 2 tablespoons of mirin and 3 tablespoons of soy sauce. So continue that cooking process for a couple of minutes. Okay, so the next step in our ramen broth is to add the chicken stock. There's a litre of chicken stock going in there, or 4 cups. Pop the lid on and wait for it to boil. While we have a little bit of downtime, we can make our dumpling dipping sauce. So what we need is some rice wine vinegar, so 1 part rice wine vinegar to 2 parts soy sauce, and a little bit of chili as a good measure for heat. Okay, so carrying on the cooking, it's time to get our coconut rice underway. So to make that, we need 2 cups of rice, 2 cups of water, and a 400 gram can of coconut milk. Add it all in and bring it to the boil. Also at this time, it's time to start thinking about our ramen noodles as well in the soup. So traditionally served with a couple of eggs, so now's the time to add our eggs to get them hard boiled as well. So, as you can see, there's a lot on the go. Okay, so our ramen broth has been boiling for about 5 minutes, so it's time to add a handful of the dried mushrooms. Maybe add just a few for good measure. So bring that to the boil for another 10 minutes. To go with our meal, we're just going to make a quick salad. So take some lamb's ear lettuce, some red onion, some capsicum, and some corn, and mix thoroughly. To add a bit of tiz to the salad, why not add a cheeky orange? Okay, so it's time to crack on with our teriyaki chicken. I've got the chicken out of the fridge. And what you need to do is pat it clean and wipe it to get rid of all the ginger off there. I know it's kind of random, but that's what the recipe says, so best to do it and follow the recipe. And then we've got a pan heating up with some nice peanut oil. Got our coconut rice cooking away, and then we want to add the chicken skin side down. You don't want to overcook the chicken, so keep it on a reasonably low heat so that throughout the cooking process it doesn't get too overcooked as you're going through the various steps. Chicken cooking there should be good. So that chicken is now browning up. You want to flip it over, add some mirin, and then put the lid back on to quickly steam the chicken. Okay, so now things with the teriyaki chicken are about to get intense. Yeah, steaming away there. So it's about cooked now, so we want to drain everything off and then add the teriyaki sauce. Right, so add your teriyaki sauce and coat it thoroughly. So keep stirring and stirring and stirring it over. Okay, so you want to keep at your chicken teriyaki until the sauce is almost gone and caramelized, so we've still got a little way to go. Also, bring a pot to the boil for your ramen noodles, okay? So stand by for ramen action. Okay, so these are the dainty little ramen noodles which you want to add to a pot of boiling water. So cook those up good and proper. Okay, so our ramen noodles, they're cooked and in the bowl. Our broth is ready to add to the ramen noodles. We've sliced up the chicken to go on top. The eggs for the traditional ramen have been peeled. We've got some green onion or spring onion to garnish. It's time to crack on with the gyoza now. Okay, so here are our gyoza. We've got some peanut oil cooking there. A stressed homeowner. Okay, so add the gyoza to the oil to brown them up. Cue slightly underwhelming sizzle. So let those brown for a couple of minutes. Okay, so our gyoza are nice and brown. It's time to add the water and quickly put the lid on to steam them, okay? Cook like a cat. Okay, so here we have our finished ramen. We've got the noodles and the broth with garnish of spring onion and some beautifully cooked, not quite hard-boiled eggs there. And don't forget the key ingredient of the chicken, of course. And so there you have it. Ramen, dipping sauce, fresh salad, dumplings, teriyaki chicken, and coconut rice. Let's dig in. Right, time to tuck in. Yum.